lifted weights a lot and did prison time. That's how I describe it.
You said we juiced up, Seven. We juiced it up. You know, we hit the weight. We joined our sets, and now we got to get jumped in. This is what rugby did.
But never say never. You know, I would love nothing more than for people to say, this is what I want to do for a living, and have the ability to do that.
So for me, I just wanted us to not be like the other people in the past, where everyone's trying to hold things to themselves. Like Ady said, rugby should be for everybody. Whether it's union or league, find where you fit in, and we should all be helping build each other up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time.
Welcome to the Rugby Swag Show. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Rugby Swag. My name is GiftTime Bailu, and of course, this is a show where we talk about what's happening in rugby news and the people that are taking advantage of the opportunities that are provided to them through rugby. Y'all, we have some great guests today, I've got to tell you, and I'm really excited to talk to you and introduce you to them. But before we get started, if you can, please go ahead and like and subscribe to this video. Of course, it helps us, allows us to be seen more, but more importantly, allows us to be able to know that we are going in the direction that you guys like, and that helps to be able to help make more of these interviews happen. On top of that, look, if you guys aren't able to, feel it on the YouTube video, definitely please check out our social media pages. Absolutely on Instagram at Rugby Swag. You can now find us on Facebook at GiftTime Rugby, on Twitter at GiftABailu, on Twitch at GiftTime Rugby, and on TikTok at GiftTime Rugby. Yeah, I'd be forgetting sometimes. Like there's such a list of these things, but it's all good. This is part of the process, right? And if you're only able to listen to the audio on this, not a worry, because I don't disinclude you in this. Absolutely listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Obviously, those are the most obvious common ones, but you can check us out on iHeartRadio, on Amazon's list, or basically any major podcast network that's out right now. So I really appreciate you guys' support. I really appreciate that you guys are able to continue to listen and allow us to be able to tell the stories that so many guests have to be able to offer, and to be able to see the opportunities that are out there with rugby. That being said, y'all, I want to introduce you to who we have coming up now. They are part of the Pacific Coast Rugby League. Yes, we are doing rugby league. They are partners with the NRL to be able to help put on the rugby league event that's happening in Las Vegas in February. On top of that, they are pushing rugby league more and more over on the West Coast and helping to be able to create a new rise out of there. Want to absolutely introduce you to Ady Cooney and Ty Lewis. They are making moves within the rugby league arena to be able to provide other opportunities where you can play both rugby union and league at the same time. This was a great conversation. I learned a whole lot. I enjoyed the conversation. These guys were really, really passionate about what they do. So I hope you guys enjoy the listen. Of course, we got to take care of our people who help us pay the bills. So check us back in a moment after these messages. But this is going to be absolutely worth it. Thank you guys, and I hope you enjoy. I'm going to let you get back to the show in a moment, but I want to talk to you about our sponsors, Health Enhanced Foods, the best specialty flours in the business. What does that mean for you? That is the flours that allow you to be able to get the nutritious need from your bread made. That's muffins, bread, croissants, whatever, pancakes and muffins. It will give you the opportunity to be able to get the best while still being able to eat like you wanted to. We have various amounts of products available for those who have special dietary needs, to those who are looking for a special health outcome. And of course, because they're part of the Rugby Swag Show, we want to let you know that you got a chance to go to healthenhancedfoods.com and use code Rugby Swag to be able to get 20% off your first order. Y'all, this is something that you're going to need. You got to build up, have your energy at the best, be the maximum. It's 2024. Let's do the best. But now I want you guys to get into it. Let's get back to the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of Rugby Swag. Y'all, we got another special guest for you guys today. We're actually bringing them in twos. We are talking about the league that is really starting to make a hit over on the West Coast. They got an amazing event happening in Las Vegas. The Rugby League Nines bringing in the professionals and showing what Rugby League is truly about. Following in President Communications, we got Ty Lewis and Ady Cooney. Yo, guys, thank you so much for being onto the show today.
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting us in.
Awesome. Look, I think the biggest thing, obviously, that is needed to be said is that you guys got 4 of the biggest rugby league teams coming in from Australia saying, hey, it's time to show out over in Sin City, over in Las Vegas. But, you know, you guys have been doing much more than just setting up for that event. Want to be able to talk to you guys a little bit about that. But first, before we even get started with that, what does it feel like to be organizing something this big with so much potential? We saw your commercial with the NFL. What does it feel like at this moment right now?
Yeah, I'll jump in if that's okay. Obviously, super excited to be part of it. I've been working closely with the guys at the NRL to put on events outside of the main Vegas like NRL games, and there's a massive focus on what can they do to help develop the game grow here in America. How can we get more people playing? And with the number of teams that have signed up, I think there are 16 men's teams, 10 women's teams, close to 500 people are going to be playing rugby league across 2 days prior to going to that game. So it's a great opportunity for everybody to kind of really look forward to what the rest of this year's got in hand for us. But stoked to be able to go see that an NRL game in the flesh and witness the speed, the impact, and everything else that comes with it. So it should be a really good event.
Man, I love that. I love that. Ady, real quick, I think your mic is a little bit fluffy right now.
Okay, let me see if I can lose the headphone.
Yeah.
Just bear me a second. You okay now?
Oh yeah, that is so much clearer.
Sorry about that.
No apologies needed at all. This is what it be like sometimes. Okay. All right, perfect. All right, so we continue. This is why it's not live. And so, Ty, I wanted to ask you, you're in as a communication. This is one that you're about to present. How does it feel even on your side being able to see this starting to come into fruition?
Can you hear me?
No. Now I'm losing you.
How's this?
Oh, chef's kiss.
All right. No, it's awesome, man, because I think it's good seeing something from the growth phase and seeing it through. And it's like watching your child grow up. Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I'm kind of enjoying is giving American fans an alternative, right? Because football season is only so long. So then the same type of crowds are looking for something else, intense, competitive, et cetera, et cetera. So rugby league could actually be that filler to grab the attention. And then I was a college athlete and I know tons of college athletes. So being a part of something that could give those guys a pathway, the ones who don't go to the NFL, the ones who don't go overseas to play football, now they have another thing they could segue to keep the competitive spirit going. So I'm excited all in all to be a part of something like this.
Yo, I love that. That is so dope. So, okay, so before we continue into it, I just want to give people a little bit of a taste of what's going on. But I think they need to know what's going on with PCRL, aka Pacific Coast Rugby League. So if you guys can, like I always say, every hero has their origin story. If you guys can tell me, how did PCRL get started or become impactful in the development of rugby league here in the USA?
So it goes back to originally 2019. I was the coach of LA Mongrel, and we were set to play the San Francisco Savage in December 2019. So the founder at the time posted on social media, pulled a group of guys together, and we kind of put the band together at that point. First game was played in February 2019. Following season, there were 4 teams involved under the kind of the previous California Rugby League regime. We ended up making a split from them for various reasons that I don't think we need to go into. And like both Ben, who runs the San Diego Barracudas, and I were looking at what can we do next and how can we stay involved in the game. And we decided to put together a one-off game between the Barracudas and the Mongrel. It was just over 12 months ago, December, in Long Beach, and it was kind of the foundation of what we wanted to do. You know, we're both Yorkshiremen, proud Yorkshiremen, been involved in rugby league all our lives, and our players were like, we want to keep playing. So, you know, that was the initial goal, was just to get that one game off the ground and see where we went from there. And shortly after that, we started to invite other people in who had reached out to us, and we went to 4 California teams not long after that. And then we got a call out the blue from the guys in Utah not too long after, you know, like probably April, May time frame, and they wanted to jump in and launch Utah Rugby League under the PCRL banner. And, you know, we'd always said we want to be fully aligned to the national governing body. We didn't want control of anything.
Right.
And we wanted to do it the right way and have the right structures, right, you know, pathways in place, codes of conduct, and really built from there. And so we just finished our last season. The Santa Rosa Dead Pelicans won the national championship, so they played team in Jacksonville. So, you know, bragging rights.
Jacksonville Axemen, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So bragging rights to the West for rugby league. And then now we're looking into what we do for 2024 and hoping to announce some additional teams that are lined up pretty quickly. So we're excited about that, and that will obviously lead into, you know, more growth out here on the West. And for me, I'm also the women's head coach for the national team. So we want to create more opportunities for women to play out here as well. So just in the, you know, the 14 months really that we've been going, we've had exponential growth and bringing so many people into the game. So excited on where this goes. You know, the guys up in Oregon are keen. We've had some interest in Washington. You know, and if we can create a hotbed rugby league out here on the West, then, you know, all for it. Hopefully then people then got opportunities to get into national team and international representation. You know, that's our ultimate dream, to see those players make it.
So, you know, as you guys are creating, obviously within the U.S., it shows that you guys have these respective regions for everybody. But, you know, rugby league has always been built on the fact of, you know, it's community. And obviously, I'm going to call it a rebellious history, even if justified. What is the connection that you guys have with the other international bodies, namely in northern England area, and then obviously Australia? What is the connection that you guys have with them?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the NRL first. The guy who's kind of leading the Vegas Nines activities, Mike Castle. He's also head coach for the Canadian women's national team. So that's how I know Mike, because we played each other in Jamaica not too long ago. Another Englishman that moved to Australia, you know, he's got a real good history with the game and is part of the Pathways group. And he reached out some time ago and said, look, you know, what can we do that's going to help grow, you know, for year one, as part of a 5-year plan for the NRL and their investment in the States. So there's a lot going on in Vegas coming up. You know, not only are we playing Nines, there are the USA men's national team are playing Canada. There's a Masters event, which I'm going to throw the boots on, and us old guys get to play.
Show them a little something. Show them you still got it.
I'll worry about my hip and my knees a little bit later. So there are two events there on the Masters side. USA play Canada and Australia in a little three-way event, which would be fantastic. And then the NRL, I think longer term they're keen to try and get into the college pathways. And tap into some of these athletes, like Ty said, that don't make the NFL, or could be a track athlete that's got wicked speed, that we can teach them how to play rugby, and they're going to put on a combine for 25 male and 25 female athletes, and I believe one of each will be selected to go to Australia to spend a month with an NRL team or a NRLW team to gain some experience. So from a national team standpoint, it's great because we get eyes on potentially some new people who've never played the sport. And it's open to everybody. Applications are open to submit your video and the questionnaires, and the NRL will control who they want to see.
Right.
But we'll be there as observers, and again, as part of a major week of rugby and rugby-related events. I think it's going to be huge for the game, and this is year one. I hope, as we go into the later years when they come back, that, even more involvement with the communities, and we can get teams out, into LA, into San Diego, into Long Beach, up into Northern California, out into Utah, and put on clinics and really engage with the community. So there's massive opportunity for this, not just this year, but for the next 5 that they've signed up to.
Yeah, the long term on this is looking really good, and I love that but all the sides, especially with Australia, really, especially with NRL, really is looking to tap into that potential. Now, Ty, I want to tap into you for a moment here, because as a player, you have coming in from a different perspective. If you can, let me know, how did you get started into rugby league itself?
It was actually accidental, because I was playing union.
It's always the best way.
Yeah. I didn't even know rugby league existed. I just thought rugby was rugby. And then I was watching it because on Peacock they kind of have rugby during the World Cup, and I saw like a rugby league type of deal, and I thought it was just the same thing. And then the team that I'm a part of, the Banditos, that's also in the PCRL, the owner of the team plays with me on Belmont Union side. So he was letting me know. He's
Belmont
like, hey,
Shores, correct?
Yes, Belmont Shore. And he said, hey, I'm starting a team. Would you like to play? I think your style fits well with rugby league. And I said, all right, let's do it. And last season was my first season playing in the PCRL. And now, like, I had such a positive experience, and I'm like hungry to compete in league. Like, I'm debating sticking with union. Like, it's like guys who play league, it's pretty cut and dry. It's whether you love it or you hate it.
Okay.
And then if you hate it, the 2 reasons you generally hate it is because one is more physical, and it's more on you can't escape it. Like, you can't escape the physicality. That's one. And the second reason you might hate it is all conjecture, things you heard about it, or because you play union, you look down on it, because other people above you look down on it, or the older guys look down on it. So now you look down on it and you think, oh, that's not real rugby. So those are usually the 2 reasons, right? And you sort people out really quickly. The first match, when you see people running at you full speed that are like 6'4", 240 pounds, and you got to make some life decisions in that first kickoff, right? So, that kind of sorts it out, right? So a lot of union guys don't go over that side, right? Because you can hide in scrums, you can hide in lineouts, you can get really far on the edge to kind of avoid the contact. There's a lot of ways to hide in union. League, it's not too many places, and then it tests your fitness on top of that. And there's a stronger mentality you got to have to know, like, this is what it is. So, it's a faster game. It's like sevens just lifted weights a lot and we did prison time. That's how I describe rugby league.
We said we juiced up sevens, we juiced it up, you know, we hit the weights, we joined our sets, and now we got to get jumped in. This is what rugby league is.
Yeah. That's rugby league right there, right? And the fans love it.
Yo, I love that. I love that. You know, I know a lot of people who have been playing rugby league. We got a couple friends of the show, Roots Rugby, Great American Rugby, who have been very big advocates of rugby league for a long time now, especially from a playing standpoint. So the development, especially on the East Coast, because, you know, this is where my results come from. The East Coast has slowly been building up more and more. I feel like since maybe like 2019, there's been a little bit more entry points into it, even though I know league has been around for a few years before that. Ady, I want to ask, you know, obviously entering into the U.S., this has been primarily, let's call it a rugby union territory by all intents and purposes. As you guys were coming into it and starting it with the first team before getting the first 4 teams off the ground, like did you guys have any, you know, holdbacks on being able to get people in, or was it just like, well, I know my guys play and then we have enough to be able to fill in that spot?
Yeah, I think the timing part of it is the most challenging for us as league administrators and teams. We want to try and be respectful of the rugby union season, the main 15 season, and obviously their 7th season at the end. And this year we made some changes to our schedule so we could accommodate that, so we didn't play on the same weekends, because we know, like Ty said, you know, a lot of the players play both union and league and they want to do both. Obviously the challenge is what window works for us. So back to game 1 in that December timeframe, 2019, most of the teams are out in December. You know, some may have come back to start their preseason prep for the union season. So we had a pretty clear window, but, you know, from a weather standpoint, it wasn't the best in Northern California. So when we were looking at our season for 23, and as we look at it for 24, it's probably going to be that June, July, August, maybe even into September timeframe. But we've got to be cognizant of the national governing body and when they want to play their grand final, making sure that, again, we don't clash with football season, and you know, a lot of the time we use football fields, you know, and those can be used by schools, you know, as soon as they come back into that into the semesters. So it's just a little bit tricky filling in. I think there will always be a case of, it's unfortunate, but they're on at the same time, you know, certain weeks. But we have tried to be respectful. It's not on us versus them. You know, I've worked with local union teams to try and help with them, provided defensive clinics and things like that. So, you know, I really want to emphasize on the fact that this union versus league fight that is on globally, there's no room for it. You know, we've got to get past it. You look now at the top rugby union teams like in England, and many of them have got ex-rugby league players as coaches. You know, and there's got to be pathways to and from both games. Some, you know, you find a guy who's 6'7", you know, and 180 pounds, he's probably going to be a second rower in rugby union. They're going to throw him up in the lineouts. He's probably not suited to rugby league. But like players like Ty, who are, you know, big impact players who like a lot of contact, it really suits that type of player. Backs can work well in both games. I think there's lessons to be learned from both games in terms of strategy, defensive efforts, you know, and players that, you know, you can go back and use at your union team as well. So there's a really good opportunity to kind of find and partner with people. And, you know, right, the latest one that I'm working on is with the San Fernando Women's Rugby Union team that, you know, they kind of relaunched this last year. And, you know, 6 of their players play rugby league for me at the Mongrel team. We have a group out of Belmont Shore in our group, you know, heavily rugby union related. And we can't exist without each other, I think, you know, ultimately. And there's definitely room to collaborate and grow and take away this misnomer that, you know, one's better than the other, or, you know, let's look down on the others. There's no need for that.
I feel that. I feel that. I wanted to ask because I forgot to even say it at the beginning because, there's some people that know the experience. So if you can you actually break down the rules a little bit of rugby league itself? And so I can continue on because I realize, you know what, we're talking about it, but not everybody's going to know exactly what we're talking about. So if you could, numbers, field, kind of the small differences between union and league, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously the first one is it's a 13-player game, not a 15-player game. So we don't play with flankers, ultimately, is the main difference in the scrum.
This one hurts my heart a little bit right there. That hurts my as a former flanker. This one hurts my heart.
We got room for you on the field, I'm sure. There's
Let's
no
go.
problem with that. So it's a 13-player game. In rugby union, when you tackled, obviously the ball's recycled, typically through a ruck, and it keeps flowing that way. Rugby league, when the tackle is complete, you get 6 tackles. So it's people who are more familiar with American football and downs, I think, are more suited to rugby league because it's quick impact. You have 6 tackles. If you don't score within the 6, you either got to kick to touch, kick for field position, or turn the ball over. So, there's always an attacking element in every set of 6 that you play. So, those are the main differences between the two games. Defensively, instead of being at the back foot, you've got to get back 10 meters every tackle. And like Ty talked about the fitness element, and when you find guys who are putting in 30, 40 tackles in a game and they've got to get back 10 each time and then go straight into, an attacking set and then do 20, 30 hit-ups in a game, these guys are super fit. And I think it scares a few people off. So, we don't hide that, but we train and we work hard to prep, ultimately.
It's part of the challenge. Like, and I can get it. Like, whenever it goes, we always know, like, when it comes to any kind of rugby, obviously endurance becomes a principal component of it. But whenever you have to like backstep, especially on a 10, it already sucks enough on the penalties, let alone needed to do it per tackle. And you're just like, oh, my legs. But man, if you're able to keep that up, man, who's going to stop you? Who's going to stop you at that point?
I'll tip my hat to a former Great Britain coach, Malcolm Reilly, and he invented the drill that is hated by most rugby league players, the Malcolm, and it's all up downs, and it's an absolute killer. And most people swear at me after I make them do, a pyramid set of 6 of those. And I'm like, this is the nearest thing you're going to get to replicating what you're going to have to do in a game. And it's, that dragging your butt off the floor and getting back 10 and then going back into another tackle is really hard work. But, once you get those fitness levels to where you want them to be, it's I think people then really start to enjoy it.
Man, I can understand that. Ty, I got to ask you, you switched over from rugby union to rugby league a lot and been able to transition between the two, especially working with a high performance area like Belmont Shores that's known for championships. For you, what was that transition like from going from union for how many years to being able to now do rugby league and adjusting your body and your mindset for what rugby league had to offer?
I think the toughest thing was just the rule set, and just letting. So this is the thing: rugby league feels more natural to me and my personality and like the way I want to play. Whereas if I play the way I want to play in union, like I do in rugby league, I'd be red carded every game. I'd never play, right? So it's like I got to restrict myself more and be more cerebral in union because
Right.
the set pieces, right? Because the scrum and then the way we kind of run things, it's like they expect I play tight head prop in union. So I have to know all the set pieces. I'm supposed to dominate in the scrum, but then I'm supposed to go out immediately after a scrum to a hit up on a white or the inside on a white, and then carry the ball if possible, or clean out a ruck. And then if it goes to like it's just knowing I have to do all these specific things, and it's
Those
a lot.
phases become much more, like you said, much more cerebral. You have to think about every action that you're doing intentionally.
Yeah, and you have to know like your depth. Like, okay, I'm supposed to be 7 meters away, about 8 meters back, or if I need more time, 8, 9 meters back, then do this. And then what is my 9 doing? okay, if my 9 is here and the 10 comes out, I know I'm a red. So if I'm on a red, I got to be here. Like, so it's so much more kind of thinking. And keep in mind, last year was my first season playing rugby.
Well, so that's why it's fresh in your mind how that transition goes. Like,
yeah, but the thing is, I just played. I was like, because I was an athlete before. Like, I wrestled in college, and then did MMA for a period of time, and then transitioned from that to rugby. So it was just, I was like, whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to immerse myself in it. I'm watching film daily. I'm going to study the greats. I'm going to be in it. I'm going to play. I'm going to be physically fit, and I'm going to learn our playbook. So that was the big thing I got when I got into union, which helps translate to league, because there's like, league will let you be creative. Like, you can create some really cool things with the passing. Like, I don't know if you watch Fiji play, right?
very much.
Yeah, their sevens team is like art on the field. It's
Right.
like chaos, but controlled with their offloads and how they move up. So it's kind of like that deal, but you could do all those things in nines and in league, but with more physicality.
Right.
So it's not as much thinking. It's more just being reactive and understanding what's in front of you, but then being creative within that system. So it's not just a brute sport that people try and make it out to be. Like, when you watch people play rugby league at a high level, it's beautiful, controlled, violent chaos. Like,
I love that phrasing. Violent chaos right there. That's what it's about. Violent, but organized, violent chaos.
It's like,
as a coach, if I can just jump in there, Ty, real quick.
Hey everybody, this is just the Bray Train sending out a personal little video diary to all you people out there, where I am going to document me riding most of the way between Singapore and Tokyo for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Number one is because it's part of my business. I do Rugby Lovers Guide to Asia. Number two is I want to bring a lot of exposure to the rugby clubs and the rugby NGOs and charities. Also, on a personal level, I just want to break the funk I've kind of felt I've been into for the last 10 years.
So for the next 12 months, I poured myself into the Singapore to Tokyo campaign, but it still wasn't enough. I needed help, and it came from Louisiana.
We in Singapore, baby!
Gift from GiftTime Rugby USA is a extroverted tour de force.
Say hi to my people out there.
Which makes up for my social shortcomings.
This place is unbelievable. No! It's not just it's like
what's he supposed to do?
Morons, a bunch of morons.
Guys, picture with me. Picture. Australian. G'day, mate. You can use my phone. But what unites us is a hunger for adventure.
Off to KL, Kuala Lumpur. Yeah! Woo!
Gift, where are we?
We're in
Mount Fuji, baby!
Our love of Asian rugby culture.
1, 2, 3, center!
Yeah!
Rugby is starting to develop here in Cambodia for women as well.
Valkyries, the mighty Valkyries!
And allows us to overcome incredible obstacles.
It's just got so thick. It's just so thick here. Now it's pouring down rain again.
But coming to this Thai-Cambodia border has renewed all the aggression.
So the whole thing's gone buggered. I got hit.
What?
I got tail-ended by a motorbike.
I can just feel that knee, that ankle just going in all the wrong directions under the weight of my body. But that doesn't compare to the pain of failure.
I'm dying. Oh, I'm dying.
And that's what I've been worried about this whole time. We're out here, we're running out of energy, we're running out of money, and we're feeling isolated. And yet at that critical moment, friends, family, sometimes complete strangers come on board. Before you know it, we're back in the game.
Tokyo, here we come!
Making a comeback. 4 weeks, 2,300 miles.
Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam.
After all the trials and tribulations, this ride had become deeply personal. All that mattered now was getting to that Rugby World Cup game in Tokyo.
Watch the full adventure at crugby.vhx.tv. That's C like SEE rugby.vhx.tv.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Easy.
You know, what a lot of people don't realize in, you know, the higher level of rugby league, every play is, you know, in a set of 6 can be scripted, and players know where they're meant to be, where, you know, what field position you want to be in by which tackle, you know, which plays you're going to put on throughout that set of 6, ultimately leading to whether you're going to kick to a certain corner and attack a certain edge. So there's a lot of work goes on in the background, and people just think, oh, they just run it straight and take tackles.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it than that, you know. But
Yeah.
it's unless you play it, you never realize that.
I feel like that's the code of rugby right there. If you're not in it, it's just chaos and bodies smashing into each other until you can start to see the nuance. And a lot of that comes from the activity of it. Because it doesn't usually separate itself. So that makes a lot of sense, because I do think a lot of people go into rugby league seeing obviously the straight line go and smash. I think some of the biggest highlights typically are rugby league players going through, breaking. You get that one, you know, 360-pound, you know, nothing but muscle Samoan just going through everything and absolutely murking, but you don't know sometimes the exact strategy that placates within there.
Yeah, there's setups. Like with our coaches, we go through a lot of detail, like where we're supposed to be, the lineup, like who's supposed to be next to who. If this play misses and doesn't work, this is the next thing. This is the next phase.
Right.
Okay, if we're on our 4th, we go here and we do things with our hands group versus this group. So it's a lot that goes into it, and it kind of, like when I hear people kind of downplay it a little bit, it's because 1, they don't do it.
Right.
2, they don't watch it, and 3, they don't really care to like understand it, because they've already made up their mind and they don't want to be told that they were wrong all this time, right? So it's a lot that goes into it, and I think it's even evident because, like Ady said, a lot of the defensive coaches in Union come from rugby league,
Right.
and to set up defenses against Union teams, you got to be high level thinking.
No, I feel that. So I wanted to ask one more, and before we get kind of moving into a little bit of the Las Vegas Nines and kind of focusing into that direction, you know, one of the things that have obviously been a pinnacle component of rugby league was the usage of contracts and payments. All right. Obviously, the separation from rugby league and rugby union dealt with workers who had to be, you know, working class group who said, hey, we're throwing our bodies out there. All we want is a little bit of salary. Union said, hey, you need to play for the love of the game and amateur, even though we have the money to be able to protect ourselves and we're not really worried about it. And so you had this digression. For rugby league, obviously in the U.S., it's growing, it's developing, and it's trying to catch its feet. What are some of those connections to even that element? Because I know with friends of mine, you know, they talk about contracts that they've signed with the rugby league teams. I remember, I think Canada had a team that was trying to be televised, that they were doing contract stuff. So within rugby league itself, how does that work in the U.S. as a growing component versus obviously what you now have in a place like Australia where it's more established, obviously Northern England where it's more established, Northern Europe where it's more established. How does that work here?
Yeah, I think the game here is very much an amateur game. You know, I think we're a long way away from players being paid unless somebody's going to come in with a significant amount of money. And we're open to that at Pacific Coast Rugby League. You know, if somebody's out there and a massive sponsor wants to help grow this, come and talk to us. But the only way, you know, players can be paid is by significant investment. Our viewpoint's been slightly different at PCRL, and that is affordability and access to the game. You know, I think I look at my son when we first moved over from England, and there was no rugby league at the time. He didn't want to play rugby union, so started playing soccer or football as I'd know it. and the local club teams were charging upwards of $2,000, for a season to go train, plus dues, plus match fees and referee fees and various other things.
Right.
And I think the access for kind of low income families to play sport in America is difficult, because of these extortionate fees that some of these clubs charge. And for us, we want to make it as cheap and as accessible to as many people as possible, because I think in and amongst these groups, there's going to be, some diamonds in the rough that we can polish and hopefully give them pathways into the bigger games, and then they can transition to America, to England and Australia and earn those big contracts. But we've got to get more people playing the game. There's just not enough right now in America. I think there's probably all in maybe 700 registered members playing rugby league in America right now, and I think there's hundreds of thousands of rugby union players. But when you compare that to UK, Australia, it's a drop in the ocean. So we've just got to get more people playing at grassroots level, and then hopefully in years to come, we can sit back and reflect on this conversation and say, look how much it's progressed, and now people are earning it and able to do it for a living. And again, the more you play as a full-time athlete, the better you become. The higher the national standard becomes, the more competitive it is, and then that will also naturally bring in more investment. So it's a long cycle. I think we're probably 10, 15 years away from anybody being paid any sort of good money out here.
Right.
But never say never. I would love nothing more than for people to say, this is what I want to do for a living, and have the ability to do that. But also at clubs where you've got a clubhouse, proper changing facilities, proper rugby fields, not using high school football fields. There's got to be some other investment in the game that gives that typical, club or all those facilities that you see. I came from Keighley Albion back in England, and we had a clubhouse, 2 fields, kids playing from 6 through to 18, and then 2 open age teams, and that's the way we've got to get to out here. And then, the youth coming through are learning those basic skills at such a young age. Whereas now, like Ty joined a year ago, he's missed, I don't know how old he is, so I don't want to insult him, but potentially he's missed 20 years of core skills.
Right.
That you need to be able to compete, and for the USA to be able to compete against Australia and New Zealand, Samoa, and all those teams, because those kids get that at such a young age.
Right.
And we've got to build that. We've got to be focused to that. And PCRL is determined to do it. We just started to launch our youth initiative with San Diego and the Bandidos that Ty plays with. They're trying to build an academy there. Other teams will follow, and the guys up in Utah have done a fantastic job with their U18s, boys and girls. They're actually bringing those to Vegas as well. So, it's starting, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of support needed.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those things that are core to rugby. Anything that revolves under the umbrella of rugby league or union, there's this element where everybody's made the push for obviously trying to find some kind of business pathway while also trying to be able to maintain some of the traditions and the elements that exist within rugby of yesteryear. Yet, trying to figure out ways to be able to increase growth, increased participation in its own self. And so you try and find different ways. Now, I guess that kind of transitions into what you guys have going on in Las Vegas, because for me, I've always felt like, even though I'm a rugby union guy primarily, I have felt that with rugby league, I think rugby league has done a much better job in creating product that is better for viewability for a general audience. From entertainment, NRL and State of the Union have been very massively set in this arena in trying to create a much better entertainment product overall, and being able to create an easier pathway for people to be able to view the sport and understand the sport more, which leads to what you guys have going on with Las Vegas, specifically with this Las Vegas Nines. Now, I talked about this actually on a news story whenever it was initially announced, and then more so whenever you guys had two of the rugby stars, I forgot their names, but from the Rabbitohs and the Broncos at the NFL being able to be promoted. So in lieu of what they already said, can you kind of give me an idea of what it is that you guys are looking to do with Las Vegas Nines and exactly what's happening with this?
Yeah. I mean, it's important to emphasize that this is an NRL event, not a Pacific Coast Rugby League event. USARL is the national governing body here, and obviously with the support of them and some of their members, we've been able to put this event on, and I sit as part of the organizing committee with the NRL for this. Obviously, the goal is to get more people, more eyes on rugby league here. And I think the biggest goal for anybody has got to be, how do we get this on, primetime TV in the States, not at 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody's asleep. How do we get evening participation and viewership and get more eyes on this sport? Because I think, like Ty said, it's high impact, it's high intensity, it's a good game to watch. We just need, somebody to be able to get it out there. And get more eyes on the game. So with the NRL and their links to Fox, hopefully there'll be, more people watching the two main games that are going to be on in Allegiant Stadium. But then hopefully we can get other ways to get the kind of the grassroots club level across the States, get some representation at that event as well. So whether it's advertising, in and around the field, we've talked about, can we do fastest sprinter, in rugby league in America at halftime. And I think the plan is to award the trophies to the winning men's and women's teams between the games. So it's really important we get involved and have more access to kind of some of that mainstream coverage, because it's definitely kind of two-sided. You've got a marketing team promoting the NRL games,
right?
Which I fully get, and then you've got a pathways team looking at how do we develop rugby league more at the grassroots level. So you'll definitely see that. The two guys going out to Allegiant to that was it a 3-0 game or a 0-0 draw, something like that. They could have picked a better game.
Look, right now it's like, look, you need to get a stay. It's like, can we get a taste in here? It might not be the greatest, but you got the taste. If you want more, hey, come watch us live here.
So and the amazing thing that all of the players for this Nines event, they all get a free ticket to the game.
Nice.
So the cost to enter a team is covered, just by buying a ticket to a game. Ultimately, it's $40 to enter a player. They get 20 tickets per team, and then everybody gets to go and watch those two amazing games that in the flesh. And I think those people that have been on the fence, that have decided to jump in and make some numbers up for one of these teams, will go and see it in flesh and go, I really like this. And hopefully on the back of that, we see some more team growth as well.
Nice. I love that. Ty, I wanted to ask you, as a communications for PCRL, obviously, as Ady said, it's not a PCRL event, but it's a PCRL opportunity. You have obviously, experience with MMA. Obviously, you spoke about doing wrestling in college. How have you guys tried to find ways as a PCRL communications team to be able to utilize this event to be able to spread even your guys' mission and your guys' gospel?
So for me, I just wanted us to not be like the other people in the past, where everyone is trying to hold things to themselves. Like Ady said, rugby should be for everybody, whether it's union or league. Find where you fit in, and we should all be helping build each other up. It should be something in schools, and everybody should have access to it, right? So for the PCRL, we're trying to help the USARL and NRL and be as supportive as possible. And we try not to bash anybody else who's doing anything separate, because we need each other to get this message across. We need each other to help build. So the PCRL is all about uniting rugby players, right? And we're trying to put a positive image to rugby league. And we're doing more community outreach. We're doing things in Vegas. We're trying to bring all eyes to that aspect of it, and to understand that, yeah, we play the sport, we're tough guys, but we're also family men. We also want to build community. We're also accepting, and we're all about building bridges, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is to not go the route of the people before us, right? So what I mean is people are trying to use tradition, the traditions of rugby union, and apply it to rugby league and everything else. That is a horrible approach for the US market because it's not a traditional sport for us.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So we don't have a history here of playing rugby, so you can't use that. If we were in the UK or Australia or Wales, that would be perfect approach. So we're going for my job is to try to establish our taste buds for the American audience,
Right.
right? Um, like here, foie gras is something that's not everybody's palate, right? If you go to France, a lot of people have eaten it, and a lot
Right.
of people love it. So you got to know who you're catering to and who you're dealing with. And here, we're more UFC, boxing, MMA, diehard, Monster Energy drink,
Get
Red
rowdy,
Bull.
reckless for
Yeah,
reckless sake.
yeah, right. You know, the movie Jackass sold millions of tickets, and it's
Facts.
this is the audience you're trying to sell to.
Right.
And I think people need to understand we produce a product. Stop looking at things as a sport. We produce a product. People are consuming your product. People are buying your product. So the
Right.
product that people want to buy should be entertaining, interesting, and action packed, right? So this is the audience of what we're dealing with. And with the USARL and this Vegas trip, I think is giving us a stage that we need to really perform on. I think the guys need to understand, all the players need to understand this platform, we cannot take it for granted.
Right.
I'd rather everybody go balls out and some people just lose or some people may get hurt or whatever, but just give everything you can on this large platform to let American fans get a taste and want more. Because
Right.
you're going to have little kids in there that's like, I want to do that.
Right.
This was amazing, especially because they're having the players interact after and before the event,
That's
and
significant.
yeah, and interact through social media. And I think the big thing for us, I'm trying to push our players to go out into Vegas, sign, take pictures, meet kids, interact with some of the parents, have a beer with some of the people, and just show like because the spirit of rugby league comes from somewhat of a impoverished nature,
Right. Working
right?
class
It's
people
working
trying to
class.
have fun with working class actions.
Exactly. And Union is seen as a little bit more posh, upscale sort of deal, right? So I want
Right.
to take that working class attitude and show that rugby league is for the people and of the people. So that's
Right.
my whole marketing campaign and push for the PCRL. And we have the guys to do it. We have a lot of family men, a lot of fathers, a lot of mothers, a lot of the women just want to participate and be involved. And the women's teams are actually really, really good. And people don't understand that. And the other thing, the third thing is when you see the discrepancy now that's going on with men and women's sports in the US.
Right.
Rugby is the closest equivalent in sports between men and women,
Right.
meaning they use the same field, same
Yep.
ball, same rules, same refs, same across the board. So the product you get from the men is very similar to the product you get for the women.
Right.
So the level is very comparable, right? And both sports are very action packed and very easily digested and easily to watch, right? So it's not that if you look at the NBA then the WNBA is a huge drop off in
Right.
viewership. We don't really have that so much in rugby with women and men because the women are killers. Like they're
Absolutely.
aggressive, they go for it. Their technique is a lot of it's better than some of the dudes I've seen. They pass when they're supposed to. They hit lines better. Like it's just crazy to watch. So our big goal with the PCRL in Vegas is to really show all these things, to showcase it. It's an NRL event, and we understand that, and we're there to support them because they've been there for us and showing what we can do. So we want to make the most of this opportunity and just be that rock for them and give
Right.
them the push that they need.
Oh, I love that. I love that. There's one thing you were talking about already with the interaction of the players that I always feel is something that even with Union is lost, is being able to determine who stars are, not for the sake obviously of creating separation, but for creating identification for people who are casual watchers or new to watch, so that they can know who to emphasize on and then obviously milk way from there. If I could ask both of you, I'll start with you, Ty, since I got you front and center. Who are some women's rugby league players and men's rugby league players that you still like watching, that feel like emulate the game that you emulate, that you want to emulate, or play in a way that you enjoy, and just, or have just the swag that you connect to?
I'm not going to individualize, because rugby is not really an individual sport in terms of how you do things.
I'm calling for an individual. I want to know who I need to watch first.
No, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. When you hear my answer, it'll make sense.
All right, bet.
The Black Ferns as a team and the Team Australian Sevens team.
Right.
The women's.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. Because everyone that I've seen on that team fits perfectly in those teams. Like, if you watch Australia's girls, or women's, excuse me, they're nasty. They have a killer instinct. Their offloads are all sick. So it's kind of hard. Like, I have to watch them as a unit.
Yeah.
And then for the Black Ferns, I want to say her last name is like not Woodcock, but God,
Woodman. Portia
yes.
Woodman with Cliffy.
Yeah, she is nasty. And then for the men's side, dude, I watch the Tuolangi guys. It's just I'm a big dude. I like seeing big dudes run. I like seeing big dudes hit people. Just watching them is always great. And the one that plays for France is always cool to watch. But I don't know, man. I would have to say that's tough. That's tough. The 10 from France is cool to watch. DuPont, not 10. Who else? God, so see, now you put me on the spot. I got all these faces and names, so I'll stick with I'll stick with those. I love seeing a lot of the big dudes. Who's the Tongan Thor? That guy.
Oh man, I know exactly who you're talking. I don't know, I'm missing it, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. The dude, he's not like the highest skilled, but he's very entertaining. Very entertaining. So it's that, you know what I mean? But if I'm looking for skill, you can't go wrong with Knox X for South Africa and Faf de Kirk and those guys. So I like watching skill, but I love watching big dudes.
I love it. Ady, I need to ask you, all right, you've been in this, so I know you got a good history to be able to go with. So for you, who is it from both the women's and the men's side, if you can, or players to watch within rugby league?
So I had the pleasure of working with Tegan Berry, who plays with St. George Illawarra Dragons, at an event in Hawaii in September last year. She came and was like a guest coach, and she's, I think she's the fastest women's rugby league player in Australia.
Wow.
I think she was the top try scorer in the NRLW this year. And she's pushing Tamika Upton for the number 1 jersey fullback for the women's national team. Both those players are real standouts. I mean, the level of talent in Australia Rugby League right now is up there. Like Ali Brigginshaw, she's an amazing halfback, and Hufanga's a huge centre that bursts through holes and is a real handful. Millie Boyle was another really good, prop for the women, and there's just so much strength in depth out there, and there's just good players everywhere.
Right.
Looking at in England, you got Georgia Roach, Amy Hardcastle, and a number of others that are also at that level that should be competing for those NRLW places. So there's so much talent, and I think the women's game is going to grow exponentially this next 3 to 5 years globally, and you'll just see an emergence of some amazing athletes and players. On the men's side, I think it's difficult to look past Nathan Cleary for his performance in the NRL Grand Final this last year. Bringing the Panthers back from what seemed the death. And a one-man show in that last 20 minutes, changed that game. Personal favourite of mine's Cam Munster for the Storm. He's not your stereotypical athlete that looks ripped. He looks like a guy who's just pulled off the street with a dodgy moustache, and he's one of the most gifted rugby league players you'll ever come across. And then you've got absolute monsters like Carrigan in the pack that that are taking the game by storm, and real standouts. So, those for me. But I looking a little bit older. For me, Sam Burgess, being a Brit going out into Australia and performing at the highest levels for the Rabbitohs, I think that will take some beating, and he earned the respect of the Aussies, which takes some doing in rugby league. That they all think they're a bit better than us down there. So for Sam Burgess to go out there and perform at that level, I think was huge for the game.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, I have my friend who's an Aussie, absolute rugby league fanatic, and he always likes to put it to, and I don't know if this is supposed to be derogative or not. He's like, look, I'm always ready to see some palms lose. There's no love lost in.
No, we're not liked. We get that. I get to say I'm an American now, so I can wave that flag when it suits.
Take the loophole. Take the loophole. I like. No, I love that, and that's really that's great. And it helps create a focus of where people can look, and for me to be able to look at, because I know for me, I've more so maybe the last couple of years I've had a chance to be able to watch more NRL because I've had to for other programmings and to kind of feign predictions. So probably before the last 3 years, I wouldn't have known very much outside of Russell Crowe owning the Rabbitohs, but and then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson doing his opening for State of the Union. These are the two elements, but
just
but
a
to see
little
that
of information for you. USARL former centre Junior Vaivai's cousin is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, so there is a link between The Rock and USARL.
I mean, look, it makes sense. That man's got so much Samoan blood as well as everything else. There's little surprise that there would have been a rugby connection. Little surprise in that genetically. No, I love that. But y'all, I want to thank you so much for being on the program. I want to ask, where can people find more information, both about PCRL and then about you guys individually, if they have any questions or want to be able to contact about how to be able to join rugby league in your guys' region and subsequently be able to find their way through a pathway to other opportunities?
Yeah, all of our information is under PacificCoastRL.com. We've got all the board members are specified and individual contacts are on there. There are links to every one of the teams that are currently part of the league. And obviously when we add more to that, the links to those clubs and their individual contacts will be there as well. So go to place, PacificCoastRL.com for everything.
Awesome. And where can they find you? Is it possible to be able to contact you, or do you say, hey man, look, I need you guys go through three-way?
No, I mean, they're probably most active on Instagram. It's @AD_in HB. So hopefully you better see me on there.
Okay, Ady. And Ty, what about yourself?
You can find me on Instagram at _TYLEWIS. That's _Ty Lewis on Instagram. I'm always there. I get tons of DMs for different reasons, and I always try to answer them. So if anybody wants to chat, know more about rugby league, or just where to play rugby, teams that are in your area, just DM me and we'll have a long conversation about it, or I can point you in the right direction.
I love it. Ady, Ty, thank you guys so much for the time. Thank you for the information. Look forward to seeing what you got, what's going to happen with Las Vegas Nines, and of course, what you guys do with the PCRL moving forward over these next 5 years. I'll have a good conversation in another few, well, hopefully sooner than that, but in the next 5 years to see where you guys have developed and rise from there.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Ady Ty, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today. Thank you so much for being able to tell your story and let us know about what's going on in rugby league. Y'all, I hope you got a chance to really take it all in. And of course, you can check out some of our other interviews that we have. We had Lance Kavanaugh last time. We had Craig Dawson before that. We had Freddie Henry Ajudua, Mike Anderson, and of course we got a slew of interviews from Jen Salomon from Mexico Rugby, to Naya Tapper with USA Rugby, Derek Lipskin with Roots Rugby, Akinola Raymond, comedian, New York rugby player, former USA Rugby player, just a slew of people to be able to touch on. And I appreciate that you guys get a chance to listen. And of course, check out our news, because we want to keep you up to date with what's happening around rugby and not just focus you in on what's going on the field. So in the meantime, I hope that you guys continue to be well. I hope that you know that I hope you're happy. I hope that you know that I hope you're healthy. And most importantly, I hope that you know that you are highly favored. Until next time, cheers.